grasping God's word.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
I wonder if Olivia has had the opportunity to.
Baker Illustrated Bible Commentary is due in November,
Okay.
as is Dr. Hayes' book on archaeology. Yeah. I'm so excited.
The things that make us happy.
Jesus. And the gifts that he gives. You want to start the countdown timer?
Oh, yes. I do need to start that.
Because I'm a little short on sleep today, and so I'm liable to ramble for days. And we've shifted to where we eat breakfast before we do this, so hunger doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, but we are, we're running late on everything today, and it is almost 8 o'clock, so, since we still have a quiet time, we need to finish.
Yeah. But see, I think I'm still picking up pizzas this week for Brooke because I don't think she's gotten her car fixed yet. I'm not leaving the house till closer to 9, so...
I have to get to school.
The boy's
Next
in there in
week-
shorts, frozen to death. I don't think he can do school.
Next week you get off. This week you don't.
Math test. All right, let's get started. Meet me, O Christ, in this stillness of morning. Move me, O Spirit, to quiet my heart. Mend me, O Father, from yesterday's harms. And remind me, O Father, that of the blessing of having fewer harms from yesterday than I was expecting. From the discords of yesterday, resurrect my peace. From the discouragements of yesterday, resurrect my hope. From the weariness of yesterday, resurrect my strength. From the doubts of yesterday, resurrect my faith. From the wounds of yesterday, resurrect my love. Let me enter this new day, aware of my need, and awake to your grace, O Lord. Amen. And that's again from Every Moment Holy. Technically Every Moment Holy Volume 1 now. Volume 2 coming out from Rabbit Room Press in the spring. But it is available for pre-order if you're interested. All right, so this morning we talk about work. It's Tuesday, so we're going to talk about work. And we wanted to talk about
We discussed talking about startup routines
startup routines.
and
That's right.
what that kind of looks like, and that's important no matter where you work. But one of the things with a lot of people, switching to remote work and all that, it's important to continue the habit of still getting up and dressing for work. And you might be a little more casual than you would going into the office, but it's still, homeschoolers talk about this a lot, about getting up and, hey, I can do school in my jammies. Well, yes, you can, technically, but there is something about the act of actually dressing for the activity that you're about to do that triggers the brain. And so if we work in the same capacity that we also rest and lounge and all of that, if we decide to dress for work in the same way that we decide to dress to lounge on the couch and watch a football game, then our brains are not going to trigger for the productivity of work. They're going to want to just lounge around.
Oh.
And so the first that would be the first thing, no matter what your work environment has become, whether you're getting up and going to work, and if you're going to work and there's not really a dress code, still dress for work. Dress in a way that will trigger that productivity.
And that's as much, it's not necessarily a, hey, always put on a tie, but that
Right,
is
right.
This is, I am dressed and ready to go to work.
To work.
This is what, your work dress code may be jeans and a t-shirt.
Well, and that,
But-
but it's different from...
But it's not your jammies, and it's not just automatically, it's not your jersey to sit and cheer on the Hogs,
Right.
and that kind of thing. And that makes a difference. And that also feeds into, and we've talked about this from time to time before, but it's worth reminding, drawing some lines around your work day, especially if you work from home. Have a start point. Have a finish point. Have a startup routine. I do this. I'm in the process going to my study and to the church. I'm in the process of shifting my routine because I'm moving from the cubby up in the attic down into the newly finished up office spaces. But this is what I do. I do this, and that triggers my brain. Here is where I am. Otherwise, I end up, well, here I am. If if I start, well, I can also let me run through my Facebooks and let me run through my,
Yeah.
you know, have those break points. And one thing we're talking about at church is the need to, as a church, have a better social media effort in terms of using social media to share church stuff, encourage people to come to church, that kind of thing. But that is separate and different from Doug scrolling through his Facebook or me scrolling through my Twitter and
Right.
going, wow, Owen is wrong again today. This is ridiculous. Um, you know, but the truth is he's frequently wrong. It's just terrible.
That's not well, and the same for me. I have a couple of Facebook groups that I really need to be interacting with, but that I definitely need to have a structure around that to say, okay, this is my time for interacting, and that is the heater on.
That's the heater firing up. Yeah, we'll deal with that in a minute.
Okay. So I think a startup routine, for example, my startup routine when I sit down at the computer, the first thing I do is I process through any emails that have come in since I last checked. But I also make sure when the workday is over, I stop checking email so that it's not a constant process for me to be aware of emails. No, I sit down, that's the first thing I do. I process through emails and I update my task list if there's anything for the day or for the week that needs to be done based on the emails, because that's our morning meeting or whatever. So that triggers for me that it's time to get back to work, and I do that first thing in the morning. I also do that after lunch.
After the significant break.
Every time I have a significant break, I come back, and the first thing I do is check and see what the email conversation has been, because that triggers my work brain.
And I think that's wise, and I think that's a good way to. And those rituals then become this is my, and it can be as simple as one of mine is, and right now the Keurig is down in the church kitchen, but James and I were talking about some things we may do with the office space that will that will kind of shift just locations with it. But I go in, I turn on the coffee maker, so that it's ready, because I know in an hour I'm gonna go make a cup of coffee. And by turning it on, and it's got a 2-hour auto shut off, so it'll be on. When I get there today, I'll turn it on, and then it'll be on when I need it later in the morning, so that I can grab a cup of coffee, and I don't have to wait the 5 to 7 minutes for it to do its initial heat up, which
Right.
speeds on my day. But that's just I did this, I checked this. Now sit down, start, because if you don't start well, then you're playing from behind all day, and it can be, sometimes things get thrown at you, and it's you can correct for that, but it is very important to get that good start and say, okay, this is where I am, this is my structure, this is what I do, and your freedom and ability to do that is always going to be a little different depending on what kind of job you have. But sometimes what you need to do is, hey, I get to work 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be at work, so that I can have a moment of peace, have a moment of calming, make sure I look around and everything's organized, and then I punch the clock and the boss starts yelling at me and I get to work. I mean, there's some flex in there in how you prepare yourself, whatever line of work that you're
Right.
in, and however you work, but do that and make that habitual, because our brains do. Our brains, our productivity, our efforts will run on, runs like a train. You can run it through a field if you want to, but it runs a whole lot better if you run it on tracks. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned something about getting thrown off track sometimes, and that does happen. Yesterday, I got thrown off track, and I kind of had my productivity was low yesterday, even though, I got a significant number of hours in. Productivity was low, and really and truly, it was because I did not come back and say, okay, here are my steps. I just came back and tried to jump right back into a task. instead of coming back and running back through my
Running.
steps. And so we have to train ourselves to recognize, all right, this is a time when I need to run through my steps. This is a time,
This
we've
is
got to, sometimes it's our own, uh, sometimes it's outside forces that throw us off track. But sometimes it is our own inability to process that we need to run back through paces that keeps us thrown off. And so it needs to become a habit first thing in the morning, as we're getting
Yeah.
started. But it also needs to be a conscious habit. It needs to be something that we're aware of and thinking of, so that we can implement it at odd times as well.
Yeah. And so really, and this is something, if you ever read the book Atomic Habits,
Yes.
it talks about habit triggers.
Yes.
We do this. For example, even like this is part of our morning routine. We threw the morning off a little bit by changing the breakfast plan this morning, but this is part of the morning routine.
Right.
And the rest of, the next hour worth of my morning will flow smoother, having done
Right.
this is just part of, okay, we do this, we've done this when we've been on vacation, we've done that, I mean, this is just, but
This
it's a
is
habit
part of
trigger.
it.
Sit down, do this. We'll log off the camera, I'll put the camera away, I'll move my chair, arrange my stuff, and have my devotional time.
And
Yeah.
I'll have to make some adjustments because I have a hard, fast end time. So I'm going to have to shorten
No,
some of the things that I didn't get done earlier. I'm going to have to shorten and cut off, which means that I'm going to have to be, I'm going to have to be conscious about what triggers I might be missing today,
Oh.
and move through each step aware so that I can get myself back on track. And so that's important as well.
Yeah.
We have our we do have our triggers, and we need to be aware of when those triggers are out of whack, and how to recover from that. So it's these things are important. I think we discredit the power of the little steps throughout every day, and we think that it's not an important thing to follow through with those steps, but it really is. We free ourselves and we open ourselves up to handle the things that come our way when we have patterns that we follow. It's like one article I was editing yesterday in a planner talking about the importance of making a checklist. And one of the biggest helps for making a checklist is that we move the processing from our heads to our paper, so that it frees up our brains to process things that come at us that really can't be managed on paper. But there are some things, if we have a list of things that we need to do, there is no reason to take up processing space remembering them. We make a list.
There's research in this that actually talks about why it is, you go in for brain surgery, and a brain surgeon is, that's a pretty stout thing. Or like NASA. Great read was the biography of Gene Kranz about failure is not an option. And one of the things before he became the actual mission controller who's in charge, he was one of his responsibilities he was involved in was writing the checklists. These were some of the best and brightest guys that you could get your hands on, the most educated that you could get your hands on in the United States in the 50s and early 60s. And what did they do? They wrote a checklist so that you could run through it. You go watch Apollo 13 and realize that part of what they do to get Tom Hanks back, what they do to get Tom Hanks back, and to get Kevin Bacon and I don't even remember who played the other guy.
It was the guy from Twister.
Bill Paxton?
Bill Paxton.
Okay.
Yes.
To get
Sorry,
them
thank
back,
you.
Gary Sinise was stuck on the ground.
Yes.
But to get what Gary Sinise, the guy that Gary Sinise plays in that movie, what he spent his time doing was constructing the checklist to feed up there. Do this. So brain surgeons do it, heart surgeons, astronauts do it. You're not going to find anybody much smarter than these people. Another, and then we'll head to the Psalm, and you're in Psalm 129. But Japan is renowned for its high-speed train service and all that. And I remember, that's one of the snippets I do remember from being in Japan.
Okay.
It was the trains. They're fascinating, and that was back in the 80s, and now they're faster and all
Right.
that. But Japan lives and dies by the train. I mean, that's how people get everywhere. There's safety checklists involved. The people that are going through, the engineer and the conductors and whatever else, they point at everything that they're doing. You got a 60-year-old guy out there who's been driving trains for 40 years pointing. That is correct. That is correct. That is correct. That is Godzilla. We're going that way. But pointing at everything and calling it out loud every time. And you know what their safety record is? Amazing.
Wow.
Way better than the New York subway system.
Yeah.
Way better than some systems that are automated completely. It's checklist, and it's just it's a trigger. I point and I see. We've taught our kids when they lose stuff, look for it, grab a flashlight, and go look for it. Even in broad daylight with all your lights on, because it focuses your eyes. They find stuff better. Yeah, little things. Anyway,
Little thing.
Psalm 129. Here we go.
Psalm 129. We are still in the Song of
A
Ascents.
song of ascents.
Since my youth they have often attacked me, let Israel say. Since my youth they have often attacked me, but they have not defeated me. The plowers plowed my back, they made their furrows long. The Lord is just, he cuts the ropes of the wicked. May all who hate Zion be humiliated and turn back. May they be like the grass on the rooftops, which withers before one can even pull it up, which cannot fill the reaper's hand, or the lap of the one who gathers the grain. Those who pass by will not say, may you experience the Lord's blessing. We pronounce a blessing on you in the name of the Lord. Well,
Pray for us.
dear Heavenly Father, thank you that your blessing is on us. And I do pray that we will be faithful and hungry to spread that truth and that love, so that those around us will not be among those who are not giving your blessing. Father, I pray that you will strengthen us for the day ahead and show us little ways that we can build routines and habits into our lives